Well, a predicted shock to energy prices has prompted Treasurer Jim Chalmers to flag government intervention in the market as budget papers forecast that power prices will soar by more than 50% over the next 18 months. While the deficit has more than halved since the previous budget in March, the latest papers hint households are facing further cost of living pressures. Our political reporter Olivia Casely has the story from Canberra.
Speaker, this is a solid and sensible budget suited to the conditions. Australians know that this is a time of great challenge and change.
There's no honey or jam in Treasurer Jim Chalmers' bread and butter budget. Despite a windfall from high commodity prices, a better economic outlook is predicted for household budgets in the years ahead. Electricity prices are set to soar by 20% this year, spiking by a further 30% in 2023-24. That's an enormous 50% increase over the next 2 financial years.
I'm not going to pretend that we're not worried about these electricity price forecasts.
It's not good news for gas prices either. Treasury says bills could balloon by 40% by 2023-24. That double bill blow prompting the Treasurer to flag intervention in the energy market.
I think any responsible government facing these kinds of price hikes for electricity and for gas needs to consider a broader suite of regulatory interventions than they might have considered in years gone by.
What that intervention looks like and when it will occur remains to be seen. For now, the government is committing $65 million more to monitor the gas market amid heightened international demand due to war in Ukraine. The budget also predicts a high inflationary environment will hang around for longer than previously expected due to soaring energy prices.
Wages are growing faster now than they were before the election, but that welcome news is tempered by rising electricity prices and grocery bills eating into pay packets.
While household budgets will be strained, the government's budget is in better shape. Deficits over the forward estimates are $43 billion less than what was forecast by Josh Frydenberg in March. Smaller deficits mean less borrowing is required for the government, which has seen net debt projections slashed. Debt is still growing year on year, but won't hit $700 billion until 2024. 2 years later than forecast. Inflation will average 5.75% this financial year, which will see wages go backwards for most Australians. Treasury predicts inflation will remain elevated at around 3.5% next financial year, before easing off to 2.5%. Beyond the billions of dollars already announced for childcare subsidies, extending paid parental leave, more affordable housing, cheaper medicines, fee-free TAFE and more university places, $213 million is earmarked for Ukraine over 5 years, including $185.6 million for new military hardware such as Bushmasters. $11.5 million will also be provided to support de-radicalising high-risk terrorist extremists in state custody. That fresh funding comes as the government prepares to repatriate ISIS brides and their children from detention camps in Syria. Meanwhile, repaying debt, health and aged care remain the biggest drain on the budget bottom line. Government payments for the NDIS are forecast to grow nearly 14% annually over the next decade. The budget reveals Finance Minister Katie Gallagher's $22 billion savings audit has claimed the Hells Gate Dam project in Townsville in a move likely to frustrate Nationals MPs. The controversial Coalition-era Community Development Grants program has also been ripped up, adding $920 million to the budget bottom line. $1 billion will also be saved by cracking down on multinational tax avoidance. The budget has highlighted its structural spending problems, but no hard decisions have been made by the Treasurer just yet. He may take another stab at it in the May budget in just 6 months' time, when further revenue raising and cuts could be on the agenda. Despite floating the balloon on revoking the Stage 3 tax cuts just weeks ago, that election promise remains untouched, at least in this budget.